Welcome to NFL Nexus. Today, we are diving deep into one of the most fascinating and, frankly, gut-wrenching situations in the entire league, the Indianapolis Colts' impossible offseason. You see, they're caught between a rock and a hard place. On one side, you've got a former top draft pick who just hasn't panned out. And on the other, a rising star receiver they absolutely cannot afford to lose. This isn't just about managing a roster, folks. This is a high-stakes game of financial chess, where one single wrong move could set the franchise back for years. The decisions they make in the next few months, they're not just going to shape their season. They could define the direction of this team for the next decade.
So this really is the question at the heart of it all. And it's not just some thought exercise for us to debate. It is the fundamental dilemma staring general manager Chris Ballard right in the face. It's a choice between the ghost of what you hoped a player could be and the undeniable reality of what another player is. In a league with a hard salary cap, every single dollar counts, and believe me, every decision creates this massive ripple effect that touches the entire roster. Let one guy go, you've got a gaping hole. Keep another, and you might have just handcuffed your ability to sign anybody else. Okay, let's really get into this.
All right, so first up, and this is without a doubt the most emotionally charged and financially complex piece of this whole puzzle. It's the man who is supposed to be the future, former 4th overall pick, quarterback Anthony Richardson. You know, when a team uses a pick that high on a QB, they're not just drafting a player. They're investing the hopes and dreams of an entire organization, an entire fan base into one guy. And when that huge investment doesn't pay off, well, the fallout is always messy.
To really get the weight of this decision, you have to understand the journey here. Back in 2023, the hype was real. Richardson wasn't just another draft pick. He was a statement. He was this high-risk, high-reward project with an athletic ceiling as high as anyone. But the key word there is project. And what do projects need more than anything? Reps. Game time. They need to see live defenses, they need to make mistakes, and they need to learn on the job. And that's exactly what injuries and a benching stole from him. It wasn't just about missing games. It was about missing that priceless, irreplaceable experience. It basically stunted his growth at the worst possible time. And that all led to 2025, when he lost the starting job to Daniel Jones. So now that whole history of unfulfilled promise is hurtling toward one single critical date, May 1st, the deadline for his 5th-year option.
And this is where it gets really sticky. That 5th-year option, it isn't just a pat on the back. It's a massive financial commitment. Picking it up means you are guaranteeing Anthony Richardson a salary of over $20 million for one season. That is an enormous amount of money for any player, let alone a guy who is right now your backup quarterback. Just think about what else $20 million could buy you. That's a top-tier cornerback. That's a Pro Bowl offensive lineman. That's 2 solid veteran starters. So committing that much cash to your QB2 isn't just an expense, it's a colossal opportunity cost. It completely changes what you can do with the rest of your team.
So look, if you're going to shell out over $20 million, you expect to see some serious production. But when you look at the numbers, the justification just isn't there. A completion percentage barely over 50%, that's a huge red flag in today's NFL, where the league average is way up in the mid-60s. And the touchdown-to-interception ratio was even more worrying, 11 touchdowns to 13 interceptions. That means he's actually given the ball away more than he's scored through the air. Yeah, the rushing is electric. 10 TDs on the ground is great. But the #1 job of a franchise quarterback is to win with his arm. These stats paint a picture of a passer who just hasn't developed. And that makes that $20 million price tag look less like an investment and more like a huge liability.
And you know, the problems go way beyond just the stat sheet. There are 2 other massive factors here. First, his health. That eye injury he had wasn't just some football thing. It was a freak accident. A metal pole from a stretching band snapped and hit him. I mean, it required complex surgery just to repair the bones around his eye. His vision was seriously impaired for months. The fact that they didn't even activate him from IR after 3 months tells you how serious this was. Then, as if that wasn't enough, in the final week of the season, the team gives rookie QB Riley Leonard a shot. And guess what? He looked pretty good. He managed the game, didn't turn the ball over, he looked competent. For a front office, seeing a cheap young guy on a rookie deal look capable, that's a game changer. It makes paying your other backup over $20 million seem not just difficult, but financially insane.
You know, you don't even have to be an expert to read between the lines here. You can just hear the deep uncertainty coming straight from the top. When your general manager, Chris Ballard, says things like, he's got to still work through the vision, and we'll see what the future holds, that is not the language you use for a player you see as a cornerstone. If he was confident, he'd be saying, we're fully committed, or he's a huge part of our future. Instead, what Ballard's really saying is that everything's up in the air, and Richardson's entire future with the team is tied directly to his health.
It's about as far from a vote of confidence as you can get.
So get this. While all this drama is unfolding with the struggling expensive quarterback, another clock is ticking loudly on the other side of the ball. At the exact same time, the Colts are at serious risk of losing a legitimate, homegrown rising star. So let's shift gears to receiver Alec Pierce and see how this whole thing builds into an even bigger nightmare.
This past season, Alec Pierce did the one thing that truly solidifies a receiver's status in the NFL. He broke the 1,000-yard mark. It was his first real breakout year, and he established himself not just as a guy who contributes, but as a premier playmaker, a genuine offensive weapon. And for a player and his agent, hitting 1,000 yards is like a golden ticket. It's the magic number that moves you into a completely different tier of contract talks. It lets you walk into that GM's office and say, "Pay me like a number one."
But here's the number that should really make your jaw drop. He didn't get to 1,000 yards by catching 100 short passes. He did it with just 47 receptions. 47. Just let that sink in for a second. That is unbelievable efficiency. It just screams explosive big playability. He's not out there just moving the chains, he is changing the scoreboard on any given play. Every time the ball is thrown his way, the defense has to hold its breath.
And look, this wasn't some flash in the pan. For the second year in a row, he averaged over 20 yards per catch. To put that into perspective, that kind of consistent, defense-stretching production is incredibly rare. It's the kind of skill set that general managers and offensive coordinators dream about. They build whole offensive schemes around finding a guy who can take the top off the defense like this because his speed forces safeties back, which opens up everything underneath for everyone else. Alec Pierce has proven for 2 straight years that he is that guy, and you can bet every opponent knows it.
And you better believe the rest of the league has been watching. The open market is calling, and it's calling with a Brinks truck full of cash. I mean, just look at the cap space for teams like the Raiders, the Titans, the Seahawks. They're all sitting on over $75 million. These are teams that are desperate for a legitimate deep threat, and they have the financial firepower to make Pierce an offer the Colts might find completely impossible to match. Pro Football Focus even pointed to the Giants as an ideal fit. The demand for a player like him is going to be fierce, and a bidding war is pretty much a guarantee.
Okay, so this is where the two stories collide, right? The struggling quarterback and the star receiver. This isn't about evaluating these guys in a vacuum. It's about a financial domino effect where every single decision is linked to the next, creating this massive logjam for Chris Ballard in the front office. It's a puzzle where moving one piece changes the shape of all the others.
Now, most of you probably know this, but it's the core of the whole problem, the salary cap. It's the hard ceiling on what a team can spend. It's a zero-sum game. The easiest way to think about it is like your own budget at home. If you decide to spend a huge chunk of your money on a fancy car payment, well, you just have less money for everything else: groceries, rent, savings. It's the same in the NFL. You just can't pay everyone top dollar. So every dollar you guarantee to Anthony Richardson is a dollar you cannot offer to Alec Pierce. It's that simple.
So the Colts are working with about $30 million in cap space. And I know, to you and me, that sounds like a ton of money. But in the world of NFL contracts where top players are getting $20, $30, even $40 million a year, that $30 million disappears scary fast. One big signing can eat up almost all of it. So it's not some massive war chest. It's just enough money to make maybe 1 or 2 significant moves, which makes every single decision that much more critical.
So let's just walk through how this whole thing plays out, step by step. Step 1. The team's number 1 priority has to be re-signing their starting quarterback, Daniel Jones. That's a must. Okay, step 2. A decent starting quarterback contract is going to eat up a huge slice of that $30 million. There's just no way around it. Which leads to step 3. Once you've committed all that money to Jones, it becomes almost impossible to justify also paying your backup, Anthony Richardson, another $20+ million. It's just bad business. So what's the end result? Step 4. After paying one quarterback and maybe holding a massive cap hit for another, there simply might not be enough money left in the bank to make a competitive offer to your star receiver Alec Pierce, who has a line of teams ready to pay him.
And this brings us to the final showdown, right? The GM's choice. It's the classic NFL dilemma, potential versus production. On one side, you have Anthony Richardson. The pros, that high draft pick status, and the raw athletic potential that made him the 4th pick. But the list of cons is long and scary. The $20+ million price tag, the bad stats, the major injury history, and the fact that he's now a backup. It's that classic sunk cost fallacy, being afraid to admit you were wrong on a high pick. Then you have Alec Pierce. The pros are simple. He's a proven elite deep threat. The cons? He's going to cost a lot of money, and everyone's going to want him. So what do? Do you pay for the promise Richardson once had, or do you pay for the performance Pierce is delivering right now?
With free agency breathing down their necks and that hard deadline getting closer every single day, General Manager Chris Ballard just doesn't have the luxury of waiting this out. Time is running out. Every day that goes by without a decision is another day a team like the Raiders or Titans could be putting together a massive offer sheet for Alec Pierce. A choice has to be made, and it has to be made soon.
And it all comes down to one date, May 1st. That is the day the Colts have to officially tell the league what they're doing with Richardson's fifth-year option. Declining it almost certainly means his time in India is over, but it frees up all that future money. Picking it up would be a shocker, and it would trigger a series of really tough financial decisions, likely meaning they can't keep Alec Pierce. This one single decision is going to set the course for their entire offseason.
So we're back to that first question I asked. But now that you've seen all the stats, the money, the injuries, the whole picture, I'm putting you in the GM's chair. The budget is tight. The future of your franchise is on the line. 2 young careers are hanging in the balance. Do you decline the option on Richardson, basically admitting a huge draft miss, but freeing up the cash to try and keep your star receiver? Or do you bet on that once-in-a-generation potential, exercise the option, and risk losing your best offensive weapon for nothing? There is no easy answer. All right, that's all we've got for today on this absolute puzzle of an offseason. This is honestly one of the most fascinating team-building problems in the league right now. If you enjoyed this breakdown, do us a huge favor and hit that subscribe button to become part of the NFL Nexus community. Make sure to like the video, and most importantly, get down in those comments and let me know what you would do. Richardson or Pierce, let's talk about it.
And hey, one last thing before you go. You can help support the channel and everything we do here by checking out our coloring books. They're perfect for kids, grandkids, and honestly, they're great for adults too. You can scan the QR code right there on your screen or just find the link right at the top of the description. Every little bit helps us keep making these explainers for you. Thanks so much for watching.